Today I want to look at the top 5 most overrated Call of Duty Zombies maps of all time. Okay, so I'm going to switch up the structure of this video a little bit. I'm going to be limiting it to 1 map per game. That way we don't get a bunch of the same game as we go along. At number 5, we have 9. Now I know what you're thinking. I'm always the person that comes in and defends Black Ops 4. In particular, I'm definitely somebody that comes in and defends the Black Ops 4 Chaos maps. But 9 always gets looked at like it's the single best map on the game. In fact, I've heard a lot of people say that it's the only good map on the game. And this is absolutely wrong. I find myself going back to play each of the other 3 Chaos maps a lot more than 9. Yes, over the years I've even played more Voyage than I have 9. Do I acknowledge that it's objectively a better map than a map like Voyage? Yes. But for some reason, whenever I go to log on to BO4, I'm always a little bit more inclined to pick a map like Voyage than I am 9. On top of this, I think there's like 3 other maps that are just objectively better in my opinion. Those of course being Toten, Dead of the Night, and Ancient Evil. I think the reason why I don't necessarily view 9 on the same pedestal that everyone else does is 1, the Serpent's Kiss is a miss for me. I am absolutely not a fan whatsoever of this wonder weapon. And 2, there can be an overwhelming amount of mini bosses even for Black Ops 4 standards. Having to fight through the likes of the Destroyers, the Marauders, and the Blightfathers seemingly every single round for me becomes a little bit too much too quickly. On top of this, Tigers are an absolute disgrace. So yeah, at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, I really do like the map 9, but it's definitely not my favorite Black Ops 4 map by any stretch of the imagination. The next map I wanted to mention is Eisendrache. Oh, and before I get people commenting that Eisendrache is just objectively one of the best maps of all time, I know this, and I'm not disagreeing necessarily. I think I had it at like number 6 of all time when I ranked every single map, but there is a lot more people that say Eisendrache is their favorite map than seemingly pretty much any other map. I feel like what your favorite map is, it like kind of has tiers. Like the very casual player will say their favorite map is Kino or Toten, and then the next level of casual will say their favorite map is Origins or Eisendrache. And I'm not saying that either of those are necessarily bad choices, but I'm just saying that the next level above that is people that say that their favorite map is like a Shadows of Evil, or maybe even like a Garad Crovy, or something old like a Call of the Dead. Anyways, why do I say this? For the longest time, I viewed it as Eisendrache is just a little bit of an Origins ripoff. And still to this day, I do think it still holds a hint of truth. The overall feel and aesthetic of the map is sort of similar to Origins. It's got the blue tint and everything. You got the 4 elemental wonder weapons. I will acknowledge that Eisendrache basically took the map Origins, made it a little bit less tedious, and also made it a lot easier for casual players. Like I feel like the average player would struggle a lot trying to upgrade all 4 of the staffs on Origins, especially on the Black Ops 2 version of the game. But on Eisendrache, you know, it is relatively, in comparison to Origins, it's a lot easier to get any one of the bows. Again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making things a little bit easier and more convenient for the average player, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, Eisendrache just isn't in that very top tier of zombies maps. Like I wouldn't say Eisendrache is S tier, I'll say it's A tier, you know what I mean? Especially since it came on the same game as maps like Shadows of Evil and Garad Crovy, both of which in my opinion edge out Eisendrache as just being the superior maps. Next up on the list is Maschine. I think that Maschine has the Kino effect. We hadn't had zombies in a while before Maschine came out, and suddenly this new game with this new map comes out and it feels entirely different and it feels sort of fresh. The Cold War mechanics takes the zombies experience and sort of twists it, and that can be like super refreshing for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I think Maschine is more of a right place or right time map. Like I honestly can't think of any features on Maschine that I absolutely love that didn't later just make a comeback on other maps. Like basically what I'm saying, everything that's good about Maschine was just on Cold War as a whole. The wonder weapon is undoubtedly my least favorite wonder weapon on the entire game. The Easter egg is really short and not necessarily fun to do by any stretch of the imagination. You pretty much just upgrade the 4 different die variants, which I already mentioned isn't a fun wonder weapon to begin with, so it just kind of leaves you doing something that you don't even want to do. And then of course it is the only Cold War map that doesn't have a boss fight. There is a sort of defend Orlov mission, but we would definitely see better map map endings as Cold War went along. I would say D Machine was the perfect release map for a game. It was such a good map just to sit back and grind camos on, but there are some people in the Cold War community that will put D Machine up on a pedestal and compare it to some of the greatest maps of all time, and in my opinion, that is just incorrect. So I wouldn't say any of the regular maps on Black Ops 2 were necessarily overrated. Like Transit and Diaries are just bad and everyone knows they're bad, and Mob of the Dead and Origins are great and everyone knows they're great. Also, I think the community is pretty fond of Buried. If anything, Buried is a little bit underrated. But anyways, they got me thinking, what's the most overrated survival map? And for me, that's 100% Nuketown Zombies. You want to hear something crazy? There's people that prefer Nuketown Zombies over town survival. Like, what are you doing? And again, I'm not somebody that hates on the random perk droppings or the random pack-a-punch. I just hate on the map layout. The map layout is not very good for zombies. We already saw Nuketown on Black Ops 1 multiplayer, Black Ops 2 multiplayer, and like 15 other multiplayers after this game came out. I don't think we needed it in zombies. It doesn't necessarily play all that smoothly. It's sure, it is chaotic, and you could make an argument that makes it more fun, but in my opinion, it just feels a little bit jumbled, and the map sort of lacks focus. It's always funny to me how just important Nuketown Zombies is to the story at large, because their survival map is just so plain and simple, and it was the only survival map to not come with the base game. You had to, I think you had to buy what, the season pass, and then it came with that? Correct me if I'm wrong. And I feel like that's why some people view it so fondly. People gotta have the mindset that, oh, I had to pay extra for this? This must be a great map. But in reality, it's just kind of boring. But at the end of the day, if I want a challenging survival experience, I honestly think I'd be more inclined to start up a game of Bus Depot than Nuketown. I might get some hate for that one. The number one most overrated Call of Duty Zombies map of all time is Kino Toten. I'm pretty sure when this video started, you already knew what my number one would be, at least if you've been watching my videos for a little bit. Kino is the map that you say is your favorite if you played zombies like 5 games like 10 years ago. You're like, oh yeah, I like the theater map, you know what I mean? The theater map's pretty cool. Kino Toten is the favorite zombies map of people that prefer multiplayer over zombies. And that's perfectly okay. It has its place in zombies history as just being that map. But I'm here to tell you that it is 100% the most overrated map of all time. Kino was originally supposed to be on World at War, and it's pretty obvious to tell based off the sheer amount of features that Kino Toten lacks. Basically everything from Doris was just moved over onto Kino. There's no like addition. The pack-a-punch system is exactly the same. If anything, it's actually trimmed down a little bit and made even simpler. There's the same 4 perks. Yes, Mule Kick was added later, but again, that's later, not when the map actually came out. And if we are counting Mule Kick as a quote-unquote feature, I don't really care. It's Mule Kick. We got a new wonder weapon. We replaced the Wonder Waff with a Thunder Gun, which was a fun change, but basically the single only thing that Kino added other than Nova Crawlers. But literally nobody likes Nova Crawlers, so they're not worth mentioning. Yeah, I don't know. It has the same effect like I was talking about earlier as D Machine, where it was the first map on a new game, and I feel like the zombies community had 2 peaks. One was in Black Ops 1, and the second one was in Black Ops 3, which means that Kino Toten was the first zombies map for a lot of people. Like, it's probably the most common first zombies map. So naturally, people tend to forever remember the first time doing something and remember that very fondly. Anyways, there's my list. This list would have looked a little bit different if I didn't limit myself to 1 map per game, but let me know what you think.